So when you open up Ableton, it should look pretty much like this screen, except for on mine you'll see the levels bouncing up and down here, and you won't have this plugin. Just ignore that for now. That's just something I've got on my microphone just to take a bit of the noise out, because I'm working in quite a noisy room and it's got a lot of kind of background noise, a hiss. So I've put that on to take that out. So just ignore that for now. Now, Ableton has two different kinds of tracks. You have MIDI tracks and audio tracks. In the audio tracks, it's purely audio. So you will record in instruments, or if you're using a microphone, you will actually record in audio into the audio tracks. Audio tracks are also for playing back audio. So if you have a song or you have samples, that's where they go. The MIDI tracks, on the other hand, are literally for virtual instruments. So it's in these tracks where you will put synths or drum machines to actually start creating the music. So I'll show you what I mean. If we come over just to this area, you'll see we have, if the menu's not there, by the way, you just click this little button and that'll bring up the menu. So if we come into this area, we can come over, if we click sounds, we get a whole host of different sounds available. So if I just click on bass, for instance, you can see all the different bass instruments and everything loaded up. We'll stick with audio first though. So if we click on samples, we can come down and we can just see all the different samples available. Now, to demo them, all you have to do is click on them and it should start playing. You should be able to hear the play there. So if you decide you want one of the samples, you just select it, drag it up and drop it into one of the audio tracks. I'll stick on that one. This one's my microphone, so I'll just stick it in this one now. So if I come down here and click play on it, you should be able to hear it. And that's that. If I want to put an instrument, so the instruments will go into the MIDI channels, all I do is come over, select instrument, and we've got all the different instruments Ableton has. Depending on the version that you're using, some of these will be available, some of them won't. If you have Ableton Live Lite, for instance, some of these options might not be there. So I'm just going to click on the first one. You'll see when you expand them, you just click the little arrows. They're listed in the types of sounds that they are. So I'm just going to quickly grab any bass sound. Again, click on it to demo it. You should be able to hear it. And then you just drag it into one of the MIDI tracks, like so, and it drops in. Now, if you do try to drag one over into the audio, you'll see you just get basically the sign for you can't do that, and it just won't allow it. So to actually play the instrument, now we've got this bass in. To do that, all we need to do is make sure that this button, which is the track arm button, is selected. See, you can turn it on and off with a red. Every time you put a new instrument in, this will automatically come on and it'll default to you controlling that instrument. So if I have this track arm button selected, it means that I can actually play or input into this instrument. So when I say I'm inputting into the instrument, I'm going to be sending notes via the keyboard. So if I press the keys now on the keyboard, you get all the sounds playing. Now if I turn that arm button off and press the keys, there's nothing happens. So you just need to make sure you've always got that armed. Now the other way to load up an instrument is simply to drag it and drop it onto the instrument, and there you go. Notice how it's automatically defaulted and armed this track, since that's the latest one. Now, one thing that does frustrate people is they'll add kind of a selection of tracks and different MIDI instruments, and they'll forget which one is armed. So they'll be trying to play track 1 and forget about the track arm button is on track 2, and all you'll get is track 2 sounds. So make sure that you just switch that over. It's probably going to be a bit confusing, so we'll put a different style sound on. We'll come to this, a piano. We'll just double click, and because I had track 1 selected, it goes into track 1 there. So you can either, remember, you can just drag or you can just double click. Swap tracks. Now, as long as you remember that, you're doing a great job. Go away, have a bit of a play with that for a few seconds. Pause this and come back to it. Get used to switching between the tracks. Okay, so now I'm going to add a couple of drums. So what I want to do is add a few more tracks, and to do that we can just come into a different area and right click, and you can insert a new MIDI track or new audio track. So I'm going to insert a new MIDI one, and for this one I'm going to come over to my drums and select some drums. So we'll go with a 909 kit. And there we go. I've now got drums. Notice again, it's automatically jumped to select that track. Now, one thing that will happen, and that kind of frustrates people, is they'll go to press the keys and nothing will actually happen. So no, you'll want to play the drum sounds with the keys just the same as the synths, however you can't. And if we come down just to this area here, you'll see that when I'm pressing the keys, you get these blue lights appearing just down here. And they're actually above the samples. So the samples of the drums in these different areas are here, are the white samples. But when I'm pressing the keys, you can see they're going above the samples. Now, to move down, so when I press the keys, I'm playing them samples, what I have to do is change the octave of the keyboard. The best way to think of this is if you think of a grand piano. There's hundreds of keys on there, okay? But if you look at your little keyboard, you've only got, well, from A to L. There's not that many keys on there. Now, that would be very limiting when producing music if you only had that amount of keys. So to get around that, we have to move the keyboard up or down an octave. So what I'll do is I'll let you hear that. So at the minute, if I press A, so that's A key, I'm now going to move down an octave. Then I'm going to move down again. Then I'm going to move back up. All the time moving up and down octaves. Now to do that, we simply use the Z and X keys. X is going to make you move up an octave, Z is going to make you move down. So I'll press A, press X, then E again, then X, then E again. So you should be able to hear that it's jumping up. Now if we go back over to the drum sounds, and we're going to click on the title, we need to make sure that we're arming the drum tracks. Click on it and press the keys again. You can see that we're really high up. So to move down, we need to go down an octave. So to do that, I'm going to press Z, press A, and you can see it's still above. Z again. Now it's playing, you can see it's playing the first tom sound. So I'm going to move down an octave again, pressing Z, and now when I press A, you should be able to hear it's playing the kick drum. So as I move up, if I press S, you can see it's playing the snare. D, it's another snare, and you can start playing the drums with the keys. Now what you'll notice is that A to L are basically the white keys on the piano, whereas if you look to Q to P, they act as the black keys. So if I press A now, you'll see that it's playing the kick drum down here. But when I move to S, it's jumping to the snare and it's missing out the rim shot. So to do that, we need to press the key that's in between, the black keys, which if we looked at piano, you would see the black keys exist. So when I press W, it's now playing the rim shot. So there you go. Now hopefully you're getting a bit familiar with playing with them now, but how do we actually record this information in so we can start looping it. And that's pretty easy. All these blank things, so it kind of looks like a big Excel sheet or a big Excel document, are actually empty clips which we can record information into. So to do that, all we do is click the record button and then we can just start playing. And then spacebar to stop, or you could just click the stop buttons up here. Now if we click play on this clip, we should be able to hear all the drum sounds. There we go. Now that's great, but how do we see the information that we've inputted in? And that's also pretty easy, but it's something which eludes people and it can get quite confusing until you're used to the software. So give yourself a bit of a break and have some patience while you get used to it. So to see the information within a clip, you simply double click on it. And just like on anything, you can scroll up and down, or you can actually extend the window so we can see everything. Now as I click play, you'll see the time head starts moving along and then it plays the drum sounds. Now once you're looking at these different drum sounds, you can do several things with them. You can actually go around and you can move individual sounds around, or you can add more sounds in, or you can just highlight them and delete them just by clicking and dragging around. Have a play around. You know, basically when it comes to Ableton, there's two ways of inputting information. We can either play it in and record it like we did before, or we can just input or sequence in the information just by clicking around. Now rather than playing your drums in all the time, it is a lot easier to sequence things. So I'm just going to show you how to do that from the start. So rather than recording and playing in, all I'm going to do is double click in an empty space. So I'll select an empty space here, and then I'm going to go through and just click in a beat. So let's have a standard 4x4 sound. I'll click to play, and I'm just going to keep adding new sounds in. Ooh. Now just like in any piece of modern software, we can kind of copy and paste and duplicate, and the shortcuts are just the same. So rather than constantly kind of inputting things in with the mouse, we just highlight the area, and you can press, I'm on a Mac, so it's Command C to copy, then click somewhere, and then Command V to paste. Paste them in. In Ableton, we can undo just by Control or Command and Z or Control Z. If you're on a Windows PC, you'll have to forgive us. I will keep automatically slipping into discussing Mac shortcuts, and just substitute the Command button for a Control. So to undo something, it's just Command and Z, and you'll see it starts disappearing things. If you want to duplicate, which is always a very handy feature, if you select what you want to duplicate and then press Command D or Control D. So when we hit play, and that's how we sequence in. The other thing that I should mention is how, especially when using drums, how to change the volume of individual hits. So we might not want this ride really overpowering and loud. So to do that, we just select all the input information and come down to here, and you'll see that these little marker points here are actually the volumes of the individual hits. Now we can make this bigger just by stretching it up, and it gives us a bit of a better view. So as you hover over the little anchor, you'll see that the notes that you've inputted in will be highlighted. If you want to change the volume of an individual, you just click on it and come down to the volume section and then adjust the parameters. Now because I've got a kick drum on the same at the same point as I've got this ride, that's the one that you can see in the background. Okay, that's why it's important to click on the sound that you want to adjust. Otherwise, if you just come straight down to these little levers here, you might select the wrong thing, so you might get the kick drum when you actually want to move the ride. So always just, it's good practice just to click on it, and then you know which one you're going to move. Also, just check, you know, if you come down to the little point, as you hover over it, you'll see the note or the hit that you've sequenced in is highlighted. That's an easy way to tell. Now, obviously, it would take forever if you were going through and changing all of the volume of each individual hit. So a way around that is just to click and drag and select all the hits, and then again move over so you know which hit you're getting, but it will actually change the volume of all the parameters. And you'll see that in the background it'll go from red if it's full on as loud as possible to white if there's virtually no volume at all. Now, moving things all at the same time is great, but it will give you a very robotic feel. So sometimes it is good just to come through and select a couple of different sounds and just change the volume of them ever so slightly. And then rather than everything sounding mechanical, you add a bit of a human feel to it. Another important aspect is the volume sliders. So I suppose I should really talk about this section here. Now, to turn off one of the tracks, we come to the numbered buttons. We just turn them on and off. So even if I play my drums, you'll notice that it's greyed out down here and you can't hear anything. Yeah, if I click the if I turn this track back on, all of a sudden you can hear it. Now, I'm just going to resize these again, and we'll stop that. So to stop a clip, we can either press stop or you can click on the stop button. Yeah, so we can resize these, and you can just use the on and off buttons to turn the tracks on and off. If you want to solo everything so you can only hear that track, you would click this little S button, and obviously we've discussed the little track arm session buttons there. Now, the important one that you really need to get used to is the volume sliders. Okay, so as we hit play, turning things up or down, use the levels. Okay, notice what's happening as I turn it up and it goes into the red. Okay, red isn't pretty, red is bad. If it's going red, it's, you know, something's wrong. Avoid clipping, as it's known, where it's going too loud. And that's the basics so far. You know, I think with that, you should be able to start creating stuff. Your next stage is really to start playing around, practice inputting different sounds, practice changing the different sounds. So I'll quickly go through how to input sounds again. So I'm going to change the instrument on this one. So I'm going to come over to instruments and I'm going to select operator. I'm going to go to a bass sound. I'm going to select acid bass, so I can either select the track, double click, and you'll see it appears in, or you can just simply drag it into a MIDI channel. So you'll notice if I press the keys, it's playing the drum instrument, and I want to be playing this acid one, so just click that. Now when I press the keys, it's playing the acid synth. So to record, I just come over to an empty track, or empty clip even, and press the record button. Then press some of the keys. When I hit play, there you're getting both the drums and the acid playing. So if you just want to hear one, or you only want to hear the bass, you can either press the solo button, or you can just turn off the other tracks. I'm not going to press the solo one because it'll stop the mic from recording. That's why I'm avoiding it. But try these things out. To see the notes we've inputted in the acid bass, just simply click on the clip that you've recorded into. Again, you can move things around by using these arrows, highlight it up, and we can see the notes that we've put in. This is a bit different from the drum beats. You can see we've got the piano roll down the sides, and there's all the different keys here. So to expand it, because obviously that's zoomed out quite a bit, if we move the mouse just past the keys, we get this little magnifying glass, and you click and drag to the right to zoom in or left to zoom out. So we'll zoom in, and then if you scroll up or down, or you can just click where the magnifying glass is and drag it up or down, or use the scroll button. Again, we can then just go through and move notes around, or we can input the notes if you want. And just click there. So that's the introduction to Ableton. Pretty simple stuff. Have a go at practicing with it. I hope I haven't been too bad and waffled on too much. I shall get the next one up ASAP.